Hi everyone, SuperMarioPoke here, and today I have some information about the London Intercontinental Championship. So, now that it's finished and Trainer Tower has posted the teams of Day 2 competitors, I've compiled the top 32 and am here to give you some stats and talk about some interesting points. So, to start it off, we have Weather Wars. Weather played a pretty big role at the tournament. Rain was the most used weather, but sand had a surprising amount of use as well, and then sun and hail did see some play. So rain was used mainly by Polytoad with Pelipper as well. While there was Golduck that was paired with Pelipper and Polytoad teams with the Swift Swim ability, most of the time rain teams were just abusing the fact that it removed a weakness off of their Pokemon that were weak to fire type attacks, such as Celesteela. Sand also played a pretty big role. Um, Gigalith was popular in either combating rain teams with use of weakness policy or handling Trick Room teams due to its slow speed stat, running mid speed on Gigalith, and then also removing, for example, the drought from Torkoal and being able to combat Sun teams. And overall, while it didn't have the largest use of play, it was heavily weighed towards the top 8 and towards the top 16 compared to other weathers. So Gigalith was a surprise for me. Maybe not to some people, but it was nice to see it do so well at the tournament. Next up, we have Sun. Sun, while there's only 3 Torkoals that were in the top 32, Sun is popular on Battle Spot, and only two of the teams had Lilligant on their team as well as Torkoal. One team did not, but I believe all of them were paired with Oranguru. Just having Eruption in the Sun, same type attack bonus, and then being able to instruct and do that again, or go for Heat Wave with the same thing. It's just really powerful Pokemon inside of Trick Room, and just it's a great partner for Oranguru due to instruct, just doubling the power of that single slot. Um, yeah, so I mean, this was one of the strong things looked at coming into the tournament. This is a large reason why we do see a lot of rain to weaken the power of Torkoal. While this is the first major tournament of the year of Sun and Moon, that is, Torkoal was on a lot of players' minds as being a top contender for winning the whole thing. So to finish it off, we have Hail. While there's only 2 Ninetales, no Vanillix, but while 2 Ninetales did make it into the top 32, there was no Alolan Sandslash on the team. It was mainly just to either set up Hail to have chip damage, or to set up Aurora Veil, which is basically Light Screen and Reflect all in one. And while it did do well, it did not see as much play as the other weathers. Looking at Speed Control played a very large role at the tournament. Almost every team in the top 32 had some form of speed control, whether it be Tailwind or Trick Room. The most popular Pokemon for speed control was Porygon 2, at 15 out of the top 32 teams had Porygon 2 on their team. And a lot of those teams paired Porygon 2 with Marowak, which I'll get into later. But then we had Oranguru. 3 of those Oranguru teams also had Torkoal. 2 of them did not. And then we had 3 Pelipper, and while part of the reason to use Pelipper was the rain, it also has access to Tailwind. And while there's another user of the rain, Polytoad, they had a choice between the two, and teams that wanted Tailwind would pick Pelipper. And then Aerodactyl did see some play in the top 32 as well, setting up that Tailwind to be able to sweep with other Pokemon on the team. So Porygon 2 saw a very large amount of play at the tournament. A little surprising for me. I knew it was a strong Pokemon, but I did not think it would play this much of a role in the top 32. So Speed Control did play a very large role, and Porygon 2 made it into some very powerful cores. Taking a look at Intimidate, Intimidate is a very powerful ability, especially in doubles where it affects both of the opponent's Pokemon. And Intimidate played a large role in the tournament. Out of the top 32, as you can see, more than half, close to 2/3 of teams did use Intimidate on their team. Some teams did have 2 Intimidators, but one interesting thing to note is while Intimidate was very strong and very important to a lot of people's success, The actual Pokemon using Intimidate did not make too much of a difference. There's four very strong Pokemon that are great contenders for Intimidate, and it's more about finding which one fits your team best and what role you want that Pokemon to fill. Arcanine, Gyarados, and Salamence all had the six teams use them on their team, and then Crocodile had a little bit less usage at four, but all of them had a respectable amount of usage in the top 32. And due to them being relatively even, I'd say it speaks to more of the power of Intimidate as the Pokemon themselves. It just depends, like I said, which one fits your team best. One thing that is new this year compared to previous VGC seasons is that terrain, be it the misty terrain, electric terrain, psychic terrain, and grassy terrain, all play a huge role in people's teams and how their game plan is to win each round. So, going into the tournament, Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele were thought up to be the best terrain users, with Tapu Bulu slightly behind, and then Tapu Fini was relatively unthought of. And the results show that. Tapu Lele came out on top as the most used at 13. While I thought Tapu Koko would be a little bit more used, it does come in at 12, about the same. And then, surprisingly to me, Tapu Bulu had 10 teams use it in the top 32, and I thought that would have been a little bit less. I thought more teams would gravitate towards Tapu Lele or Tapu Koko, but a lot of teams also did run two Tapus. And then one of those two Tapu teams did also include a Tapu Fini. So, yeah, the terrain is very interesting. A lot of the teams that ran Tapu Bulu also ran Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck only has one weakness in ground, and Tapu Bulu cuts the damage of Earthquake, Bulldoze, and Magnitude by half. And that really helps protect Muck and turn him into a really big offensive threat and defensive threat. Tapu Lele and Tapu Koko both saw a lot of use in pairing with Raichu. Alolan Raichu saw a good amount of use at the tournament. Not too much in the top 32, but as you go lower down towards the all-day 2 competitors, Psyche MZ, Raichu had some success at the tournament, and that was something that I didn't really think of much before. Pairing the Z move, the Psychic Z move with Alolan Raichu, and being able to abuse either terrain. In the top 32, there was a large amount of Pokemon with electric immunities due to the power of Tapu Koko, and Tapu Koko rain teams as well. Being able to have that Thunder insight or in electric terrain, perfect accuracy due to rain was a big threat coming into the tournament. And Marowak actually comes in at 16 players had Marowak on their team, which was, I didn't think it would be that high. I think Marowak is very good, but outside of Trick Room, it's somewhat lackluster. It helps protect Pokemon that are next to it, but when it's the slowest thing on the field, a lot of times it can't get done what it needs to unless it really hard counters what the opponent brought. It does have a lot of threat in team select, as seeing a Marowak on the opponent's team, you have to plan accordingly, like they're going to bring it, because if you have 2 or 3 electric types or heavy electric users on your team, you know that they're probably going to bring Marowak, as it's so good against those type of teams. So Marowak did see a lot of play. Like I said before, it was paired a lot with Porygon. Porygon 2 could set up Trick Room and then have Marowak be the fastest thing on the field, and in that case, it is a powerhouse. Garchomp also saw a decent amount of play, mainly paired with Groundium Z, because Tapu Bulu weakens Earthquake, and there's things like Muck that really need to be hit super effectively to take out quickly. Groundium Z gave a single target, stab, ground type, powerhouse move to deal with things like Alolan Muck with grassy terrain up. Crocodile and Gastrodon also were a factor. Gastrodon is actually really interesting because it's also weak to, or not weak, but it's immune to water as well. And with rain playing a huge role, it's no surprise that teams running Gastrodon found success at the Intercontinental Championships due to the heavy amount of rain teams and water attack users. Gastrodon found a nice home in a lot of teams. Finally, I just wanted to go over some Pokemon that are immune to ground type moves that were used. The highest number, and the thing I want to point out most, was Celesteela. At 15 people used it on their team. Most people went for Sub, Leech Seed, Protect, and Heavy Slam but some people did cut either protect or substitute for flamethrower in order to deal with other Celesteela. But this Pokemon is widely talked about as the best Pokemon in VGC right now, and it did see a large amount of usage in the top 32. Um, and it's just overall very powerful. In the rain, it only is really weak to electric. It has great defensive typing. You can pair it with Marowak to take away the immunity, or to have a Marowak draw the electric type moves away from Celesteela and towards the Marowak to which it's immune. You can pair it in the rain to handle fire type attacks, and it can just single handedly take down three Pokemon all on its own to finish out a game. So, also, other ground immune Pokemon that were used was Gyarados and Salamence. And then Aerodactyl and Pelipper also found its way into the top 32. So, to finish things off for today, while this is not the entire list of Pokemon used in the top 32, this is the top 20 Pokemon that were used. So, as we saw before, Muck, Celestia, and Porygon 2 all had an enormous amount of usage. And then Tapu Lele, Tapu Koko, and Tapu Bulu fell shortly behind. After that, the Pokemon I haven't talked about yet today were Araquanid, Kartana, and Kartana. Those Pokemon found their way in a lot of teams. Kartana was somewhat surprising to me. Araquanid, I thought before the tournament, it's very good, especially with Porygon 2 and Marowak being the core of your medium speed Trick Room team, and then you can have some faster Pokemon on there as well, in case you can't get Trick Room going or if you don't want to against certain teams. Kartana, it has a great immunity to poison, so dual Tapu teams could appreciate that. And it does have a way to... I think the reason why it did so well at the tournament and found its way into the top 32 a lot of times was because of the popularity of Porygon 2. Porygon 2 was immensely popular, not only in top 32, but all the way down through day 2. It could actually be the most used Pokemon at the tournament. So, Kartana is one of the Pokemon that, especially after a Beast Boost, can dispatch Porygon with relative ease. Porygon can take the hit, but it does not want to, and with a Beast Boost, I believe you can one-hit KO it, or at least if you double target it, it will be knocked out. So, Kartana's success, I think, does play a large role in the success of... or Porygon 2's success plays a large role in the success of Kartana, but I thought it was interesting that so many of them were found in the top 32. I touched on it a bit before, but Muck found its way in at 5 teams. I believe all of those also had Tapu Bulu on their team, but I'm not 100%. And then Milotic with its competitive spirit ability, or I think it's just competitive. A lot of teams brought Intimidate. Milotic is really good against Intimidate teams as it gets a +2 attack, special attack boost, and then if it's holding an Adrenaline Orb, it can also get a speed boost and become a powerful threat. Then we also saw Raichu and Politoed, and finally there was a lot of Pokemon that came in at 3 usage, but the one I wanted to show for the top of at number 20 was Magnezone, with Celestia being the tied for the second most used Pokemon. It isn't a surprise that Magnezone did so well, being able to trap Celesteela there, ignore the Celestia, and then because it, as long as your team isn't very tight, like all the Tapus are pretty weak to Celestia, but except for Tapu Koko, but being able to just focus on what's next to it and only deal with one threat at a time while slowly having yourself drained by Leech Seed, you can just focus down whatever is next to Celesteela and keep it trapped in with Magnezone's ability. And that was a strategy a lot of teams or a lot of people used at the tournament to success, including Wolf Glick, the world champion. He was running Magnezone with, I believe, Politoed and Tapu Bulu, and Muck. Just powerful defensive core, and being able to manipulate one of the most popular Pokemon in the format. Overall, I was surprised Marowak did have such high usage. I thought it would be ranking in between like 3 and 10. I didn't think it would be ranking it at number 1. I thought that would go to Celesteela, and then the Tapus. Porygon 2 also surprised me. I thought while there is not much speed control right now, and Porygon 2 is definitely the best user of Trick Room. outside of pairing. Like Oranguru has some great synergy with things like Torkoal, but Porygon 2 is just very reliable. While it might be less reliable if the number of taunt users go up, um, as it can't hold the mental herb because it needs to hold the Eviolite to be so bulky. Um, it was surprising to me that it fell usage ahead of the Tapus. And same thing with Marowak. So overall, I might for the next video I might go over some sets from the tournament itself. If you guys have any questions about the tournament, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them or help direct you to someone who can. Um, it was pretty awesome. This first major tournament of the year. I'm excited. Coming up soon are regionals in America, where we'll be able to see more Sun and Moon action and see how the metagame develops. As, like I said, this was the first major tournament for Sun and Moon, and there was a lot of expectations coming into the tournament, and I think a lot of those were answered, and then a lot of them were countered. So until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time.